We are the coaches of women's basketball. We are leaders and teachers, dreamers and winners. We are professionals who conduct ourselves ethically and with integrity. We place the education, safety, and well-being of the athletes we coach above all else and teach them the fundamental values they need to succeed in life. We are coaches united for the good of our game and those who play it. We are the WBCA.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. That's what you have here tonight. That's what you've earned here tonight. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
Hi, welcome back to Hoopsville. I'm Catherine Bixby, head coach at Johns Hopkins University and a member of the Women's Basketball Coaches Association. I hope you're enjoying the show. Now back to Dave.
Welcome back to Hoopsville on this special Monday edition presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC studios. Again, running a Monday show. I think we've done this a couple times over the years after soccer championships and on the way home. Well, I really thought about it on the weekend, realized it would be a smarter idea to do this on Monday instead. So thank you for tuning in. If you're listening to the podcast or you're watching this or listening to this at a later time, thanks for taking the time to do so as well. We're going to start in the Great Lakes region with our first interview segment of the day. Of course, the OAC, the NCAC, MIAA, we always talk about those conferences and some of the great basketball going on in them. So sometimes finding the right time to talk to coaches is a little bit more challenging. I didn't have to find the right time to talk to this coach. Baldwin Wallace women's basketball off to a 6-0 start, coming off of a 15-11 season last year. Wins over Skidmore, Rochester at their place. Of course, Rochester not as strong as they've been over the last few years, but it's still a solid victory. St. Vincent, W&J, which is always a tough team, Heidelberg and Muskegon. But they've got Marietta on the road and Trine coming up in the next few games. And then they're at Wartburg for what is always ending up being a terrific tournament at Wartburg. That's all before the new year. And then after the new year, it's all OAC basketball. So what do we make of the Yellow Jackets? Well, joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville Hotline is the head coach of the Baldwin Wallace women's team. It's Coach Hara. And Coach, thanks for taking the time.
Hey, thanks for having me, Dave.
6-0, 2-0 we're already in conference play with the wins over Heidelberg and Muskegon. And again, we mentioned Marietta and Trine coming up here in a couple more, conference games before the season takes a little bit of a break for the holidays. Are you thrilled with how you guys are out of the gate here?
Of course, you have to like the record, but we're not pleased with how we're playing right now. Hopefully, we can fix some things before we get into the teams you just mentioned, Marietta, Trine, Wartburg, and then either Wisconsin Lacrosse or Wash U. Those are some great teams.
Yeah, those are some tough ones, and I mean that may come back to be a benefit, win or lose, at a later date. Obviously, winning the games are important, but you say not playing the way you guys want to. I look at scores and boxes, and I can pick out what I can out of that. But, the win over Rochester was 79-56. The win over W&J was by 10 points. What isn't working that we may not be able to appreciate?
Well, our kids are playing hard. We're just not playing real smart. But we've got some things to fix defensively. And then offensively, just playing better together. Just still trying to put the pieces together and figure out rotations and those kinds of things. Right now, we're playing 12 kids in a lot of games, and that's a lot of kids to try to get into the rotation. So we're still trying to figure our way out there.
Some coaches would die to have that kind of depth. I mean, that's got its benefits. I understand you certainly want to get into a rotation, everybody get comfortable with who they're playing, but you've got three players in double figures right now, a senior and Riley Schill, Lily Edwards, a sophomore at 10.8, and Hannah Feck, a senior at 10 points a game. And by the way, Schill's at 14. And then two more seniors behind it. Obviously, this is built on seniors right now. How much, though, are the underclassmen like Edwards contributing, and how helpful is that?
Oh, it's really helpful. Obviously we are leaning hard on Riley and Hannah, Kara, Casey, but our sophomore class, we're really happy with them. Between Megan Scheibelhut, Megan Hensel, and then Lily, obviously is going to score a bit, and Sydney Snyder has shown flashes of being the player we think that she can be as well. So we're actually really relying on 4 sophomores in that group as well.
Yeah, the sophomores are pretty much the other leaders outside of junior Gabby Garrett. Edwards is at 5.7 rebounds a game, which leads the team as well. Of course, it goes through Hughes and it goes through Schill at their 2+ assists per game. You obviously have a tough conference in the OAC. It has become tougher. How much is not only the senior experience important, but how much is it the sophomores needing to really appreciate their role going to help you in that depth when you get into the OAC a little bit further than you have so far?
Well, we're hoping it does. And those kids, all those sophomores played as freshmen in the NCAA tournament last year.
Right.
So, yeah, and we intentionally scheduled it. We were actually supposed to go to a much smaller tournament, and when I saw Wartburg needed a team yet for that tournament, and I found who was in it, I was like, with this group, with so many seniors and some kids with experience, we graduated 2 kids who played in rotation and returned everybody else, plus Hannah Fecht. Hannah missed all of last year except for the first 4 games with a broken wrist. So she's actually in a red shirt year. So we knew we had her coming back, all those kids coming back. I was like, I have to challenge this crew. And, we're up for it. I don't know we're up for it, but we've got it on the schedule. So we'll see what happens with it.
Last season didn't end the way you guys had hoped. Again, 15-11. You ended up losing 5 of your last 8 games. And again, it was that group of Marietta certainly in the mix, but Mount Union and Otterbein certainly didn't help things either. What did that finish of the season do in the offseason for you guys?
Yeah, that was actually 2 years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. That was 2 years ago.
Yeah, when that happened. Last year,
last year you might have made the NCAAs or something, yeah.
Yeah, last year we got beat in our conference tournament, and then, made the NCAAs and got 1 win and then lost to Messiah on their court. And it was a good battle. It was a 2-point game at the last media break.
Right.
So I think it gave our kids a taste of it. That was the first any of the kids on this team had been to the NCAAs. And, it was good for us, for them to get a taste of that. And I'm not sure we worked as hard in the offseason as any coach would like, but hopefully hard enough that we can see some results this year.
Let me flip the question around since I read the wrong year. You had that finish 2 years ago that didn't work. It led to what you were able to put together at 20-8 last season.
Yes.
Get into the conference tournament, obviously, and do well there to get into the NCAA tournament. You got past Rochester Tech in the first game and a close one at Messiah, and then, as you pointed out, a tough one at Messiah in the second round. How does all of that experience, not only the stubbing your toe finish at 2 years ago, but then at least the NCAA opportunity help not the sophomore class, but that senior class who gained that, has gone through it all, as it were?
Yep. Yeah. And that's what really turned it around. A couple of those kids, well, it was Hannah, and then one of the kids that graduated after we lost that game to Otterbein in the conference tournament, just finished in such a tough way. They're like, Coach, what do we need to do to turn it around? And that was perfect, because I knew what we needed to do. I just needed kids that wanted to listen to it. And we had some willing ears, and from that point on, they really were bent on making sure our culture was where it needed to be, our work ethic was where it needed to be, that they really, truly care about each other. And, we've been able to get things back on track from that.
The OAC is still tough. You play 18 games in conference. It's a grind, to say the least.
Yes.
Marietta, Otterbein, Northern made it seem like maybe deja vu last year in early January. You lose 3 straight to them, kind of similar to how that previous season had finished. Was that a scare moment, or is that one of those kind of resilience moments? Like, okay, we've been here before, but we're not supposed to be.
Yeah, it was a little of each, because in all 3 of those games, we had double-digit leads. In fact, at Otterbein, we were up 23 in the first half and managed to lose it. And against Marietta, we're up like 10 with 2 minutes to play and managed to lose it. In Northern, we had a double-digit lead in the first half. So it was like, yeah, it was like we had to finish out some games here and we'll be okay. And but it was good because it did test our resiliency and it did make sure we were going back to our core values. And the kids did a great job of turning things around.
Of course, the conference this year looking like it's going to be much of the same. You guys are undefeated so far overall, 2-0 in the conference. John Carroll is 6-1, 2-0. Ohio Northern undefeated at 1-0. Otterbein 5-1 at 1-0. Wilmington looks like they might be in the mix this year. Around Capital, you can never count out Dixie Jeffers. Marietta, maybe not as strong as we've seen, but they seem to still be in the mix. Mount Union is going to be in the mix. This seems like a deeper OAC every year we look at it.
It is. It really is. I just happened to look at it yesterday. Our league right now, non-league, is 34-13.
Yeah.
The worst record any of our teams have right now, non-league, is 2-2. So it tells you a little bit about our league. Like you said, it's brutal.
Yeah.
It's brutal. There is not a single game that you can go into and say, okay, we'll be okay here if we just show up. You know, like you better bring your A game or you're going home with an L in this league.
How much does that also, though? I mean, I can see it being a benefit to some degree. I could also see it being a little bit of a disadvantage. You're grinding out. How tired are you guys as a team when you get to the end of the season?
You're really tired, and because it takes its toll on you mentally as much as physically. And we battled through a lot of injuries and things last year too. And that was one of the things when we were coming off some really. Kids missing 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there. That's why Lily's not starting for us now. She missed 2.5 weeks of preseason with a concussion, and it's already started again for us a little bit. And that's the tough part. You're physically grinding because it's a physical league, and there's a lot of physical play, and then you turn around mentally and you just don't get a break, and it does take its toll. And that's why it's so tough to win at the end, I think. I sometimes wonder why we have a conference tournament because we beat the daylights out of each other for 18 games. But, I mean, if you're fresh enough when you get, and that's where it's tough from a coaching standpoint, it's determined NBA now load management, but really trying to do that all the way through, like monitor, especially your older kids, how are their bodies, trying to cut back on practice where you can. At the same time, trying to get those youngsters minutes so that next year you're not starting all over and those kinds of things. And it does play into your practice planning and all that kind of stuff in trying to not plan for right now, but what's going to happen, weeks down the road.
Yeah, true. And weeks down the road, of course, is this, challenge you have in Waverly, Iowa. I'm curious, with the knowledge that the OAC has become as tough as it is, and it's the grind, and you're going to take your lumps, and you may not get out of the conference tournament. Are you going into your non-conference 7-game schedule and saying, I need to bolster this as much as I can so that our team's got a chance at getting an at-large bid?
Yes. And we've got to come up with some wins in there somewhere to give ourselves a chance at large. Our conference is just it's so hard to win that conference tournament, just because there's so many good teams. Like any one of, all those teams you just mentioned, any of them can win our conference tournament. And that's why playing a good non-league schedule helps us. Because, at the end of the day, you're playing 18 league games and your strength of schedule is going to come out to 500 with those teams. It's league games. Everybody's playing 18. So the more we can bolster it outside of that and hopefully get a couple quality wins that can give us. And that's what happened last year. We were able to get at large because we had some good non-league wins. And that's what we're after again this year.
How do you approach that, though, with the team? I know you're not talking March in November. You're not talking March in December. But how much do you also have to express to them that these games are going to be important come late February?
We did that really early. We said, hey, and this is the toughest schedule we probably ever put together. And I did it to challenge you guys. We need to be at our best, and for league and non-league. And but we haven't really talked about that lately. You talk about that before the season starts, and then once you get in the season, it's just a game ahead of you.
Sure. You're in your 15th season at WMB or WMB. Jeez, I'm flipping it. How about that one? My brain's all over the place today.
Dyslexia.
Yeah, apparently. BW, we should call it. 30th year, I think, overall.
Yep.
Hey, does it feel like you just got there? Does it feel like 15 years?
Yeah, the kids keep you going. I mean, when you enjoy coaching, like we have an incredible group of young ladies. Like they are just class act, and they're fun to coach. And when they're fun to coach, they keep you young. You don't think about it, but you blink and you think about somebody might ask about a team or a player, and you're like, oh yeah, that was just 4 or 5 years ago, and you look and it was like 10, 12, and it's like, no, it hasn't been that long.
Yeah, I even know that pain, and I'm not even coaching.
Yeah.
What do you look back on memorably? I know things aren't over, but this 15 years you've seen a lot at Baldwin Wallace.
Yeah. We've had some great kids, great teams, and we have people out there doing some really great things with their lives right now. Like we have pharmacists and doctor and lawyers, and they're just doing really, really cool things, and that's really joyful to look at and see what kind of lives they're leading now. And but boy, there's been some great wins along the way, and some really memorable games as well in there.
I should point out, I said 14th earlier. I was referring to 14th, 15th NCAA tournament teams, I believe. You've been there 30 years. You're approaching 600 wins. You're what, I think 11 away at 589, if my numbers are correct. Has that cropped into your head that big number is knocking on the door, as it were?
I knew at some point this year, I didn't know what the number was. I figured at some point this year.
So, by the way,
I'm really right now just worried on us getting better in Marietta, to be honest. So.
Yeah, so I should mention. So, by the way, it looks like it's coming. I'm double checking to make sure that what I've got here is right. So it looks like you're 11 wins away. So, do those milestones mean something? Or let me rephrase that. What do those kind of milestones mean?
It means I've had an opportunity to coach a lot of great players. And been fortunate to be able to stay. When I got to BW, this wasn't a program in great shape, and I was fortunate that some administrators believed in my abilities, and we were able to turn it around. And then have had a lot of great players want to not only continue that, but try to take us to another level. And that's what we're reaching for now. We haven't been to that Final Four yet. We've been to Elite Eight 3 times. Not been to that Final Four yet, and that's what we're continue to look for players who want to take us to that level.
Well, you've certainly done pretty darn well for yourself and for the team. We've been kind of used to you winning at least 15, 16 games a season, to the point that I'm a little surprised we haven't had you on the show more often, but maybe that's also the conversation about the OAC. There are so many teams to talk about in there. What's the message to the team heading into the 4 games here surrounding the holidays?
Right now it's just about Marietta. And once we're finished with Marietta, we'll talk about Trine. And we're in finals right now, so our focus right now is actually just on us getting better. We're working today on the things we didn't do very well on Saturday and trying to get better ourselves. And towards the end of the week, then we'll start looking at Marietta as far as with the kids, what we need to do.
Well, you got to get there first, and that sometimes is half the battle, is it not?
Yep.
Well, Coach, I really appreciate the time, including my brain going 6 ways to Sunday differently.
You're fine. You're fine. You're a busy guy.
Sometimes when we get into this, our brains don't work either so well. As always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with those who may be tuning in?
Now, I just appreciate all you do for Division III, Dave, and especially for Division III basketball and paying attention to women's basketball as much as the guys. We really, really do appreciate all you do for us.
It's just as fun a brand. There's no reason not to pay attention to it. We enjoy doing it. Thanks for your time, Coach. Take care of yourself. Good luck against Marietta, Trine, and everybody else, and according to the rest of the season. And we'll look forward to talking to you down the road.
Thanks again, Dave.
Absolutely. Coach Harrod joining us here on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville hotline. Yeah, so apparently my brain is still in soccer gear looking at different schedules. They do have Marietta on the road on the 14th. Then they're at home against Tryon on the 18th. Take their holiday break. Then they head off to Waverly, Iowa for what is always a fun Wartburg women's basketball event out there for the pre-holiday schedule. And then they're back, and it's nothing but OAC games the rest of the season. We'll keep an eye on the Yellow Jackets and the OAC throughout the rest of the season. When we come back, we'll keep talking women's basketball. We'll head a little bit further west. Edgewood is off to a tremendous start. We'll talk to their head coach about how they're doing. And don't forget, still ahead, we'll head all the way out to the northwest to talk to Whitworth men's new basketball coach and their tremendous start of the season. And then Bob Quillman joins us on the show to talk about the opening month of the season. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com for the WBCA NABC studios. Plenty more Hoopsville when we come back.
Being a part of the different activities and organizations that I've been a part of, I'm actually able to see myself where I'm like, hey, I actually can make a change. I'm one person that can make a difference.
Division III has helped me to develop teamwork skills, critical thinking skills, time management skills.
It's not just about basketball, or it's not just about school. It's about developing yourself as a person altogether.
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
For the love of the game. That's what it's all about, they say. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that.
It's more about team and the schools and communities we represent.
And for the many of us blessed with the strength to compete in sport at the college level, we understand that with what we were given comes a special obligation.
Our obligation to help those who have their own special needs and whose love for the game is no less intense.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics. Since August of 2011, we and others from Division III campus communities have volunteered more than 250,000 hours, time away from the classroom and practice field, reaching across the country to coach and mentor Special Olympics athletes.
And to learn that in giving, we receive so much more in return. Help us keep that dream alive.
Be part of it.
Get involved.
You can make a difference.
It's on us to stop sexual assault
in any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
to stand up.
To make our community safe for all.
It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was scared and shy. It was hard to look at people's faces. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. I made friends and won lots of gold medals. But I learned more than just playing golf. Special Olympics helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
welcome back to Hoopsville. I'm Amy Sakaitis, head coach at Lebanon Valley College and a member of the Women's Basketball Coaches Association. We hope you enjoy the show, and now back to Dave.
Welcome back, everybody, to Hoopsville. Hope you're enjoying the show despite our slight tech issues tonight. We finally got the Facebook and YouTube streams up and running. Turns out the YouTube one was just a setting that got changed unbeknownst to us, and we finally fixed that. And the Facebook one, we really don't have a reason. We just found a little trick to get it running. So those of you who might have been watching on the regular page may have noticed the stream stop for about 10 seconds. That was the solution. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville at D3Hoops.com. You can also join us on Facebook at Facebook.com/Hoopsville. I know I got one question in there already about men's basketball in the tournament, which we mentioned a few times. Brennan. No, I'm just joking with Brennan. Brennan, I'll get to it at the end of this segment, okay, before we take our break. Talking about Edgewood women's basketball earlier about how they're off to a program best 9-0. I'm not sure what else you want to say regarding the fact that it's 9-0. It's just those kinds of starts are things we like to shed a light on, because it shows that sometimes programs can come out of nowhere on us and really be playing really good basketball, sometimes under our nose or unexpectedly. So figured at 1 month check, it's worth checking in with the Eagles women's basketball program. And joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville hotline, it's their head coach, Kaya Huff. Coach, thanks so much for taking the time to join us here tonight.
Hi, Dave. Yeah, thanks.
Apparently we dropped out there for a second. I hit a strange button. It's full of tech issues today. I'm telling you. It's maybe we don't do shows on Mondays. Maybe this is a hint. Again, 9-0 start here. Forgive me. I can't remember which year you were hired specifically, but when you got hired, I know you had high goals. All coaches do. Was this ultimately where you hoped you could get the program at least to start a season?
This is my fourth year here at Edgewood. And, you know, I inherited a program that was struggling, and I knew they were struggling. So I put together a plan just to try to fix it. You know, we wanted to get winning, and we wanted to get winning, and I went about doing that the best way I knew how. We had to work on the culture. The culture was poor. We had to work on recruiting for sure. And so when I got here, we really went to war with that. And it was a tough first year. We didn't win a single game, so we really had to build it from scratch. And we just knew it would take some time.
Well, that's the thing. You were 0-25 in 2016-17. 11-14 the following year, 14-11 last year. So obviously the build has happened, but it's quick. I mean, to go from nothing to 11, let's be honest, that's a significant step. To be above 500 in 2 seasons, another significant step. To now be 9-0 and roaring out of the gate, and we can talk about opponents and strengths and all that. Sometimes it's about confidence. You've clearly in 3 years built some confidence there.
I think that's certainly true. You know, we had that year after we went winless, we had 11 freshmen, and a lot of the time we had 5 freshmen on the floor at one time. And that's crazy, you know, at this level. And we felt all the good and the bad of that. We felt their energy and their confidence, and they were hungry. And of course, that was kind of what I was selling, like, hey, you get to come here and you get to build it and you get to play, help me do it. And they came, and they kind of came in with a storm, and they won 11 games that year, and it was fun. But we, you know, as that year went on, we felt we had bigger goals and bigger fish to fry, so to speak, and we had to get serious about it. And it's really just been a building block for us year after year, where we want to add things in, and I've gotten a little tougher, and I've asked them for more and asked them to give me more each year. And it's kind of come up to a point this year where everything clicked, and it just got very serious, and it got very intentional, and my kids were here for it. And it's been fun, you know. Like, I don't know that when I started, I thought it would take a full cycle recruiting to really get competitive in our conference, and we've kind of hit it 1 year early. sort of my opinion on it. We got some really good recruits in, and they're stepping up, and my juniors this year are just on another level. The focus and the discipline and the consistency, and it's kind of jumped us a little quicker than I expected, to be honest.
Sure. No. And that's always the best feeling versus maybe still struggling in year 3 trying to figure out what the best answer is. By the way, we should point out, we talk about strengths. You know, you defeated last year's tournament team Ripon 52-51 back on November 26th. That certainly is a building block. Of course, the NACC is full of conference games. So you are already square in the middle of conference action. As we talk here, you've already gotten through, 4 games? I think you're undefeated at the top of the conference with MSOE behind you and Benedictine as well. Has there been this is going to sound strange, has there been a pinch me conversation in the locker room, or okay, yeah, we know, but, you know, we still need to focus? Has that conversation happened yet?
You know, there's, I guess, a little bit of both in that. My kids they expect to play well, and they've built this thing, and they've watched us get close. Last year, every game was just close, you know, and they felt that so much, and it was painful. You know, we ended the season last year. It was painful for us being so close, but knowing that we just had work to do. And so this year has been, we just focus on going 1-0 every game, and that caught us a little bit last year. We get ahead of ourselves and worry about the big games, and they wouldn't focus enough on that mediocre games, if that's fair. And this year has just not been like that. It's one game at a time, and every game gets all of our attention, and then we jump to the next one, and we've just kind of built it. So are they surprised? I don't think my locker room is very surprised, to be honest.
Okay.
I think they've seen it coming. I think it's more that they are hungry to play the big games now, and they want to be challenged by the best teams in our conference, and we want to take a run at them and you know, see if we've got it.
Makes sense. It totally makes sense. Again, you mentioned no seniors on this squad. The best part of that is you're building still ahead to next year with this unit. You don't need to start worrying about things changing. You're led by Alyssa Lamarade. Is I saying that right?
Lemeron. Yeah.
Lemeron. Oh, even better. 13 points a game. I like that better. 5.7 rebounds. Emma Klein, 11, let's call it 12 points a game. Four rebounds a game. You also have Abby Shane. She's near double digits at 8 points a game. Your leading rebounders are Alyssa's sister, Bria, at 6.5 and 6 rebounds for Lexi Walter. So you're getting some balance there from what I see. And even from the assist side of things, it's Alyssa and it's Bria, at least in the high numbers. It's very, you know, statistically says balance. Is that true?
Yes, 100%. And that's been the big thing. We're just deep, and our depth has been the thing that has really picked us up. In the past, we've had to ride some of our top kids. Like last season, you know, if Shane or Alyssa was struggling, then we struggled. And this year, it just hasn't been that way. Everybody's had a bad day, and someone has come off the bench or stepped up and played a big role. And that's what's made us difficult to beat. I think in our first 2 games this season, we had almost 100 bench points, which is just crazy. So it's just that's kind of been our situation where somebody's ready to step up, and it's been a long time since Edgewood's been deep, and so that's, you know, and that's something that's been building for a while, where we don't have to just rely on a couple players, but our recruiting classes have caught up to each other a little bit, and you know, we're playing some freshmen who are really stepping up, and that's been the biggest thing for us, is just being able to have people step up when somebody's not playing well.
You're looking now ahead, certainly at more conference games. You've got Rockford ahead here on the 14th. You'll then get that Christmas break, the holiday break, and come home and before hitting the road and taking on Wisconsin Lutheran on January 4th.
Yeah.
This is always that time of year I ask some question regarding that length of time off. Are you worried it can derail what has been working well, and how do you combat that, or are you not worried?
Yeah, I'm worried. I'm always worried, though. I'm worried about that. You know, Christmas break is always hard. I always feel a little more comfortable in a year where we take a trip. You know, we'll do that every other year, and we'll play in a holiday tournament somewhere. And you feel a little more comfortable because you're just playing longer into the break. And this year we don't have that. So it's just, you know, the way I think about it is that my kids have their commitment and their dedication and their discipline to our program and to their individual work is what's got us here. You know, we're this tiny school that, you know, is not known for women's basketball, and they're trying to put it on the map. And so I just got to trust over break they're doing the same thing, you know, and they got to go to work. And if they want it, I always tell them, like, this is your program. Like, you have built it. So if you want it, it's yours for the taking, but you got to work, you know, when nobody's watching, and they have to keep on it. So that's kind of my feeling about the break is it's scary. And for me as a coach, you know, it takes the control away a little bit, but, you know, I trust them, and I know they want it as much, if not more, than I do.
We talk about your background a little bit. You graduated from Moody Bible, which many people may not know is located in Chicago. NCCAA. I always want to make sure I get that one correct. You then took a year and went over to Grace University in Nebraska. What attracted you to Edgewood, and what was? Well, yeah, I mean, obviously it's back into the Chicagoland area, certainly, but what's the pull to Edgewood specifically?
You know, I started as an assistant coach in the NAC and at Dominican University, and so when I started there, I was familiar with this conference. So when I saw this job open, it was an opportunity to get back to the Midwest, and I knew the conference well, and also I felt it was going to be a rebuild, and it was going to be somewhere where I had to, you know, kind of go to work, and I love that. So that's my thing, and I love doing that. And so that was really attractive to me about this place, is that we could come in here and sort of, you know, make some history, if that's fair.
Where are you from? Because I grew up in Chicago, and I wouldn't peg you for a Chicagoan by the accent.
No, I actually grew up in Upper Michigan for about half my life.
Okay.
And then I moved to Central Illinois when I was about 12 years old. So I've been mostly Upper Michigan and Illinois. So I have a funny accent. I can't tell you the number of times people tell me that.
It almost sounds Southern.
Yeah, I know. My parents live in Dallas, so I've also spent a lot of time there.
There's the truth.
I think I'm
There's the truth.
Combination of all those things.
When you say Upper Michigan, do you mean UP or just Upper?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, the UP up there.
Yeah, my former boss is from the UP, so I know it well. Some famous athletes and coaches have come out of the Upper Peninsula.
Right where Tom Izzo's from. So.
Yeah, well, my boss was friends with Tom Izzo. They went to school together.
Okay.
That has its own funny stories in it. So you know how to handle winter. So anything Chicago throws at you is nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Madison's like, it's fine.
Yeah, right. Madison Avenue is a little bit easier than Madison. That's saying it lightly. What is the real goal for this team, Coach? Yes, 9-0, great start. You're on top of the conference right now. But I'm not trying to tamper anything. I just mean, if we really are looking at things at the end of this season, and I look and see you guys at whatever, how do I gauge that you guys took advantage of the 9-0?
Yeah. We want to win the conference, and everybody wants to win their conference, you know. It's difficult, but we want to get there, and we want to put ourselves in a position where we give ourselves an opportunity. This is not a school. Edgewood is not a school, like I mentioned earlier, with a strong women's basketball history. One time in the history of the entire school has Edgewood won the conference. It's not a place that's known for women's basketball, and we're looking to change that. I'd love to change that. I love Edgewood at college. It's an amazing school. It's a high academic school. It's an amazing, the number one college sports city in America. it's a place that's prime for somebody to come in and do it. And we really want to do that. And we want to change it. And I always tell my team, like, why not us? Why not us?
Sure.
Like, you know, small private colleges are in this thing every year, but you have to build it and you have to believe. And so that's what we want to do. At the end of the season, I hope we're there. I hope we're up there in position to make a run and have an opportunity to win a big game. It's not something this program has really done. And so that's something we'd like to change, and not just for this year. We'd like to do it for many, many years to come. So this program is just starting, and, 9-0, it's, wow, that's awesome. And I would have never guessed it. But at the same time, like, we feel like we're doing the little things, and the little things are what's going to get you there.
Yeah, well, that's a great way of looking at it. We look forward to seeing how the team does the rest of the season. Heck, little private schools are winning national championships all the time in Division III, so certainly not out of the realm of possible. Thanks for taking the time. As I said, we always have a tradition on the show. We leave the guest with a final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuned in?
Thanks so much for the opportunity, and thanks for all you do for D3 basketball and women's basketball. You know, I'm a fan, and I'm always paying attention. And we're a tiny little school, but we're going to work, and we're going to get there. So hopefully we stay on the radar.
I have a feeling you will. Good luck. It's going to be a good battle in the NACC, and we'll look forward to talking to you somewhere down the road.
Thanks so much, Dave.
Absolutely. Take care of yourself.
Bye.
Kaya Huff joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville Hotline. Appreciate her taking the time. Yeah, great start. I know. I mean, talk about a turnaround with a great program. They look like they're able to maybe even take a page out of what the men have been able to do, take the page out of what others in the NACC have been able to do, and we'll keep an eye on how they do and continue to do as we move on. So real quick, who was it? It was Brennan. Our friend Brennan asked me, we've mentioned this a few times. We'll keep repeating it because trust me, people are going to ask us, Brennan, throughout the year, how will the men's tournament schedule be different this year with the final being played in Atlanta and a later than usual date? First off, remember, to all you of our friends out there, we are playing the national championship in Atlanta this year at the D1 Final Four site, same city as we did in 2013. Now, in 2013, it was one of these off things where we had every 6 years, we have this quirky calendar for the championships that extends a week. And I don't know if it's CBS's fault or it's the Masters' fault or it's both of those. I don't know. Anyway, so instead of a 6-week, we have a 5-week gap between the end of our season and that game. And so what they'll do is they're going to play 2 games, first 2 rounds on the opening weekend. You might remember last time we went single, first 3 weekends. Then we went Elite 8, Final Four in Salem, a week off, and then championship. So we're going to go the other way. We're going to do 2 games the first weekend for rounds 1 and 2 at host sites. We'll play the Sweet 16 essentially on its own the second weekend. Then the third weekend, Elite 8 and Final Four, along with All-Star Game, all at Fort Wayne. Fort Wayne can't move. Salem moved last time to make it happen. It wasn't easy for them, but they made it happen. Fort Wayne can't move. D1's women's regionals are taking place that following weekend in that same building. So there's no way of moving. So we'll go 2 rounds, a single round, and then the Elite 8 Final Four All-Star Game together in Fort Wayne. Then 2 weeks off, championship in Atlanta at the American Airlines Arena. I believe it's the American Airlines Arena. Same arena as the last one, it's just different title across the street from the D1 site. And we got to figure out how we're going to be there because budgetarily that is a mess. So there you go. I'm sure we'll talk more about it as time goes on. Running a little bit behind, we'll take another break. When we come back, we'll talk to Whitworth's new head coach. They're playing well, ranked in the top 25. Speaking of which, the new top 25s have both come out. We told you the women's would probably come out while we were on the phone. We'll talk about that. Tufts, the new women's number 1. Whitworth is now 16, moving up from 20. We'll talk to their head coach about all of that when we come back. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA and ABC studios. More Hoopsville after this.
We are the coaches of women's basketball. We are leaders and teachers, dreamers and winners. We are professionals who conduct ourselves ethically and with integrity. We place the education, safety, and well-being of the athletes we coach above all else and teach them the fundamental values they need to succeed in life. We are coaches united for the good of our game and those who play it. We are the WBCA.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. That's what you have here tonight. That's what you've earned here tonight. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
It's on us. It's on all of us. And it's time to act now.
It's on us to start the change. It's on us to be the change. It's on us. It's on Division III. It's on all of us to stop sexual assault.
It starts right when you hit the court. You imagine your finest moment. The game-winning shot that gets you to the dance, a monster dunk or no-look pass, and cutting down the net. Sports lets us dream of our own success and prepare us for our finest moments on and off the court.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
Division III allows you to give yourself to other things.
Having that free time allows me to pursue the things that I want to pursue.
Division III athletics affords students the opportunity to, engage in the other interests in their campus and in their lives outside of that sport.
It allows you to just be able to do everything you want to do. I wouldn't change it for the world.
I learned a lot of valuable lessons playing college football. I never thought about the health benefits of exercise until I actually started to talk to coaches in college. It's not only just for performance, it's for life. My coaches instilled the importance of well-being, not only building up strength, mental health, getting enough sleep, eating properly is all what it is to be healthy. I decided that I want to go into personal trainer and share my knowledge that I obtained in college about physical and mental well-being.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and I know how powerful words can be. The term gay doesn't mean stupid, lame, or less than.
So I pledge to speak up if I hear the term gay used in a derogatory way or any other homophobic terms.
If you can play in Division III.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and my teammates unconditionally accepted me as part of their family. So now I pledge to do the same for others. If you can play in Division III.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, on this Monday evening, a special show where we're not doing it on Sunday, a little bit different. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville and hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville@d3hoops.com. Join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville, where we finally got the stream running, though I don't see anybody chatting with us, but considering how late we were on getting the stream running tonight, I am not going to consider that a loss. I do know we have a few listening to us on our YouTube simulcast. Daryl Duncan, who's a fan of the Northwest basketball stuff, certainly enjoys it. Also, Dan Thome. He says, did the Oshkosh uniform on the back wall die in the flood? No, it did not. We're rotating those uniforms, so we didn't rotate Brockport today. One, because we redid the background, if anyone hasn't noticed, and so we're rotating all the jerseys that we have. Second of all, we haven't actually finalized how we want the studio to look, so we're still working on it. The Oshkosh one was supposed to go up recently, but the system we had it on fell apart, so I got to fix it, and we'll get it up soon. So there you go, Dan. Don't worry. We will get the Oshkosh one up again. Though, maybe we should keep it down for as much as they're struggling at 5-3. Speaking of which, I forgot to check to see if they're still in the top 25. No, they fell out. The number 13th ranked last week, Oshkosh Titans are out at 5-3. Christopher Newport fell out. North Central fell out. So did WPI. Your new teams are Babson jumping in at 14. Stevens Point at 18. Okay, we'll talk to Bob about that. Colby jumps in at 19. Springfield at 21. And Benedictine is in at 24. But we'll get back to that with Bob. Let's get back to our conversations with coaches. One of the coaches, or one of the stories that we were proud to have said that we were kind of on top of in the offseason was Whitworth. Not because we thought something was going to happen. It was one of those where I wake up in the morning, I look at my phone and go, wait, what? No. Yeah, I had a lot of those this summer. Head coach at Whitworth decided to move on to a better program. I will give him that moving to San Diego is a good idea. I don't like the idea of leaving Division III. Whitworth wasted little time, decided Damian Zablowski. I'm making up names today. It is one of those shows. Damian Zablonski was a good choice to bring into the show, or to run the show. Well, of course, he's kind of been the sidekick for the whole time. Joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline Skype edition presented by Blue Frame Technology is Coach Damian. And Coach, besides me butchering your name 6 ways to Sunday, even though I've known it for about 10 years, welcome to the program. 5-1 on the season. We haven't started Northwest Conference play, but you guys have also been sitting for a while, so I figured you should be rested well enough to chat with. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I appreciate it. And no worries on the name. I think the SKI on the end of a Polish name scares a lot of people. Not like Coach K. I don't have C's or K's and Z's and things like that in it, but it's simpler than it looks. But yeah, we're doing well. We've been a little bit idle these last couple of weeks, but getting ready. Our guys are in finals, start finals tomorrow, so it's always a busy time, for them. And I was just saying, I don't envy those stresses of a student athlete. I mean, I still had nightmares for months after I graduated that I had some project due that I didn't turn in. So it's a tough time to be a student athlete, but it's a important and necessary time for them.
Yeah, good way of saying that. I mean, I feel bad for the student athletes. I don't miss it in the slightest.
Exactly.
Not even close. By the way, I shouldn't screw up Polish names. I'm married a gal who's got a Polish last name. I've startled a few people when I come in and nail the Polish name in announcing and then screw up like a Joe Smith. Listen, let's go back to the hire. I don't remember specifically off the top of my head when it took place. I want to say it was earlier in the year. I want to say May-ish. Is that
end
right?
of May, I believe.
Yeah.
When
did you find out?
End of April.
End of April.
Yeah, pretty quick. I found out pretty much the morning that everybody else found out, or not too long.
So you and I chatting wasn't really new for you.
No. It was the whole process happened really quick. Coach Logie was super happy here at Whitworth, but when you've had the amount of success that he had over the 8 seasons before, suitors come along, and it just happened that an opportunity that seemed like the right fit for him arrived, and it was really less than a week for the whole process to take place. And luckily, we had already had some agreement with our administration that the president and the athletic director that should he move on at some point, I would be the head coach in waiting and take over. And so I was very grateful for that. It made it a more seamless transition. Obviously, whenever there's a coaching change, there's uncertainty, but when you can go from telling your players, the coach is moving on to this is your new coach in literally 30 seconds.
Right.
I think it helps them with the transition a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that was the big key that we certainly knew about was they were wasting a little time. It's interesting for you to say that basically that plan was in place already. Not all schools will admit that. Not all schools will say it. And not all schools will live up to it, to be blunt.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's interesting that, you guys at least had that kind of lock, stock, and barrel. Let's talk about thus what happened next, because to be honest, yes, it's the end of the school year, though. Do you get a chance to meet with guys? Do you have to wait until the new year? How does you're involved with recruiting? I'm sure it didn't change anything with that, but was there anything that fell a little unsettled for a while?
Not really, because we already we had our schedule in place. There were a couple of contracts to sign, but we were good with that. were pretty set with our recruiting. You know, obviously, you want to make sure that the student athletes that have committed are still interested in coming. And you know, when you go through the process, I think you're selling the school and the community and the program itself, and that kind of transcends, you know, who is in the head coaching spot or even what student athletes are there. So, you know, our recruits were in line with that, and I was able to shore up one more. So there wasn't a lot of concern there. And again, the transition did happen before guys had left for the summer, so we had an opportunity to all get together and, you know, and just talk about the direction and feel comfortable with that before everybody went home.
Let's talk about, you know, now. You guys are having a good season, as we pointed out. You're 5-1. You're 1 loss coming to Eau Claire, that game at Wash U, and then beat Co on the backside of it. You've beaten St. Thomas. You've beaten some good, Claremont Mud Scripps, for example. And then you got this lull, as we mentioned. Then you've got Mary Washington visiting you, which is insane in my opinion. They're making that trip in the middle of December. And then you head to Worcester, where you'll take on John Carroll and Worcester for your holiday tournament, as it were. You've got some interesting tests ahead of you after this less than traditional break, as it were.
Yeah, you know, I think when the Division III, you know, moved up the start of the season, I believe it was last year, that made for some interesting scheduled choices. Being on an island like we are, it's very difficult to get a single game weekend. So pretty much every weekend that you play is going to be 2 games. And so we actually have more time than we need to a certain degree. This season, the Northwest Conference there was only one single game of conference game early. The majority of the teams didn't have December games. Next year we do again, just based on the calendar. So yeah, we had this little break, if you will, and but we turn around. I mean, we've got the opponents that you listed are certainly really formidable opponents, off to great starts. I think Mary Washington's 7-2, John Carroll's 5-2, Worcester's 5-1, and, you know, all great programs. So nothing gets easy for us. And then obviously you flip the switch in the conference right after that.
Talking about this team, from what I'm watching, it feels, well, you've been there and you've been under Coach Logie for so long, the team feels like they're playing differently. It doesn't feel like the same. I mean, it's the same guys, and there's elements I certainly recognize, but it feels like you've decided to change things up a little bit. Is that fair? And if so, what?
Well, you know, we've been traditionally a really great offensive team, and luckily we've really been able to continue that. I mean, up until this point, we're averaging our field goal percentage 51%. We're shooting nearly 42% from 3, and scoring, you know, at a good efficiency. So our offense has been there. You know, I felt like our best opportunity to improve was on the defensive end, which we've never been terrible. We've been a little bit up and down, but the most room for growth. And I think our guys have really bought into that in this preseason, and we've definitely had some really great results. I mean, the St. Thomas game was a great defensive game for us. I mean, St. Thomas is a phenomenal offensive program. They traditionally shoot the ball really well, and we may have benefited from a night when the ball just didn't bounce their way, because those happen in basketball. But I'd like to think that you know, a good chunk of it had to do with the intensity and the togetherness that we've demonstrated on the defensive end. So that's definitely the area that I feel like our team's identity has maybe you know, I've put an effort in to try and change and trying to improve, because again, I felt like that was the best opportunity. So I would say that I think we've also played probably with a little bit more depth at this point. You know, we had some pretty great horses, you know, over the last couple of years that you play a lot of minutes with, and you know, I think that our program we had guys in the wings that were waiting for their opportunity, and you know, I've been able to play a few more guys in the traditional rotations. So I think that would be one other difference that you'd see with this year's team.
nothing against Ben College, but I feel like the last couple of years we've been waiting for him to evolve and become the player we've all seen waiting to happen. It looks like it may have happened. 22 points a game right now on average, handing out nearly 3 assists. Of course, Isaiah Hernandez is handing out 3 assists. Jordan Lester's handing out 4.5. So that's not an abnormal number necessarily. He's also pulling down 3 rebounds, shooting 45% from the floor, 39% from beyond the arc, 87% from the free throw line. Honestly, he disappeared in games last year, and in games you guys kind of needed that other threat. What's changed about him this year that makes it seem like all of those what ifs may be real now?
He's a great shooter. First of all,
Yeah,
let me tell you, like, he's one of the best shooters I've ever been around, and I've been lucky enough in my coaching career to be around some pretty great shooters. When I was on staff at Oakland University, Metro Detroit, we had Travis Bader, who he went on and broke J.J. Redick's all-time three-point record in NCAA, 504, I want to say. It was just broken by the Wofford kid last year, I believe. But, you know, Travis is one of the best shooters I've ever been around, and Ben is right there. I mean, he's got such a phenomenal work ethic. He's in the gym all the time. He's so self-motivated. You know, kind of answer your question, I think a couple of things that have happened. One is, again, we graduated some great players that were around him, and so now might be his time a little bit more. Teams are focusing on him. I mean, there's no hiding that he's a great player. So one of the things we really pride ourselves on is that we try and play as a team and let the ball find him and find whoever is open if it's not him. So I think the best thing that's happened this year is he's just really matured and evolved, and he's letting the game come to him. He's not trying to do too much, and that would be easy to do when, again, you graduate some guys who put up a lot of points around you, and you know that it is your team. But his maturity level over the years has just continued to grow and blossom. The summer before last, he actually basically broke his wrist, couldn't shoot the entire summer. Ooh. And did a lot of visualization, did a lot of mental training, and I think found a lot of maturity and a lot of emotional stability that maybe he didn't have when he was, 18 years old or whatever. So it's been a really fun process to see him grow and blossom. And I always think that the maturity and the way that players develop outside of what they are just inside the lines, that ends up translating almost more so than the time that they put on into their game and getting up shots, because he certainly hasn't stopped doing that. But it's the other things that seem to be the intangibles that help grow a player.
One person watching the show says he seems even more comfortable beyond the three-point line than he used to be. That can be scary if you're a defense trying to key on him and he'll take a shot from further out.
Sure. Yeah. No, I mean, kind of actually before the three-point rule change was made, I had encouraged our guys to work on their range, and you really don't have to ask Ben to, but I felt pretty good once they did make the change that I was a little bit ahead of that. And so our guys were already on the track of just feeling comfortable with the extended three-point line, which obviously we don't get till next year. But, I think our guys can play with create space because of the depth that they can shoot the ball from.
I'm curious. I'm going to start asking this from a few people if they give me a hint that I think it's there. How much are you into the analytics of this game?
I love it. I love efficiency stuff. I hear you guys debate sometimes when you're going through your top 25, polls and that kind of thing. But what you think of Massey? I think I use the Massey ratings, and I know that they don't. I've talked to Ken before. They're not really fully mature until they're about 10 games into the season. But I think they're great. He told me 10 is pretty solid. It's not based on the previous year after that. But I think they give you great indicators. The thing that's crazy about this game is that anybody can win on any given day. You got a pool of great teams that I know you guys are trying to rank and where do they stack up. But even the great teams in there, they can still lose to a team that's outside of it. I mean, you see it not just at our level, you see it at Division I level. There's so many things that are that are based on matchups and how the ball bounces that night, how the calls go, whether people are injured or sick, or there's just so many variables. And the parity, that's what I think what's special about basketball in general is that, a really a great team can get knocked out by a good team. They can get knocked off by an average team on a given night. So,
well, another coach or a coach we mentioned earlier with a Polish name getting knocked off by a team that had the perfect middle initial for that event, Stephen F. Austin, I think was perfectly the GOAT there. Quickly before we let you go, Northwest Conference, very different conference this year. I remember going into the preseason polls, nothing against you or Whitman, didn't vote either of you. I thought there was enough change by both, enough losses by both that I wanted to see something. I've got you in my poll up to 11 now. You're 16 overall. Maybe that's high. To be honest with you, you could argue that you could argue that 23 of my 25.
Hey, I appreciate it, Dave. Like I said, I feel like the job that you guys are doing it's very difficult. You put it in a big pool, and we're all honestly we're all progressing. We're all evolving, and it changes on the daily. I personally think that we are in that pool. Where we are ranked in it, I'm not even going to try and debate. I just,
I think I would have had a better chance doing it post-op for my back surgery. I should have moved the surgery up a couple of weeks to time it. But with this Northwest Conference, I felt like last year was the apex of what had been a steady climb of not only you guys in Whitman, but also other programs. And now we may have come over a hill a little bit, and doesn't mean we won't climb again. Is that a fair read? How tough will this Northwest Conference be? Or is there maybe someone we're not paying attention to that's going to rise to the occasion?
Well, I hope it's us, but that's just me.
Besides you,
no,
maybe.
it's a really tough conference race, and Whitman is a great program. They had a tremendous senior class that graduated, so it's understandable that there's going to be some question mark to that, but they're still a great program. And even if, they dropped a game that maybe they hadn't dropped in the last couple of years, they're going through transition themselves. They've had some injuries they've had to deal with, as far as I'm aware of. And so, all that being said, they're a great program. I think Linfield has the roster back from a really great team, and they were, definitely growing and challenging us last year. And there's no easy outs in our conference. So I think there's a lot of teams that are vying for it. I think we're very competitive, we've been lucky. There's been somebody the last several years going back that have had some pretty gaudy records in our conference, so. You might not see that this year, but that doesn't mean that there aren't multiple teams that can compete at a national level, in my opinion.
Sure, no, and that's why we ask those questions. We want to get that sense, even if it's a conference that's around the corner from me. It doesn't mean I get the total view from it that sometimes you as coaches get. And I do understand that sometimes you guys as coaches get it from a very isolated point of view as well. So it helps to balance. Again, you've got Mary Washington coming up for your one game in the span of a month. Before you'll take on John Carroll at Worcester, and then Worcester at the end of the month before getting back home and starting the conference action. One last question before we let you go. What else are you hoping not to change necessarily at Whitworth, but hoping to put your stamp on at Whitworth now that you're in charge of the program?
Well, when you inherit a program like this, you want one of your main goals is to not change a good deal, to be honest with you.
Sure.
You can probably see over me, tradition never graduates is one of our program mottos. And like I said, it's the ownership that the players have in the program. We've got a great group of guys, and I really just want to continue following our university's mission and getting, high quality student athletes that we can help develop and get the most out of them and enjoy. And hopefully that comes with a lot of wins along the way. My goals are to continue the great tradition that we have in this program that has been carried on not only by the coaches, but by the great student athletes that we've had. So
tradition isn't to argue with us on Twitter, is it?
No, we won't argue about that. No.
Sorry, inside joke with Damien. Just like to have a little fun with you, sir, about Twitter. Hey, appreciate the time. Thanks so much. Congratulations on the job. I know you and I have chatted over the years, and it was great to chat with you, knowing that you were getting the job. And thanks for coming on the show. We will obviously probably be talking to you somewhere down the road, but good luck the rest of the way. Have a great holidays. As you probably know, our tradition is we always give the guest the final word. For the first time, I get to say it to you. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with those who may be tuning in?
Well, first of all, thank you for everything that you do. I mean, it's such great coverage, and I think our student athletes deserve it. And I guess my final word would be good luck to all those student athletes that are taking those final exams and doing those final projects, and commend you for the commitment that you put into the sport and into your academics. And it's such a great thing that Division III does really honor that balance. And we've got some just incredible athletes out there that we compete against and that are on our own team. So good luck to you guys as you go into finals.
Well said. Thanks so much. Take care. Enjoy the holidays. As I mentioned, we'll look forward to talking to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Take care. Happy holidays.
Damian Zablonsky joining us on the Hoopsville hotline. Again, the team's 5-1, moving up to 16th in the top 25. Again, Mary Washington, that random game on the 16th of December, and then they'll be against John Carroll and Worcester, 28th and 29th. They're out in Worcester. We'll take another break. When we come back, we'll go back to Skype. Bob Coleman will come on. We'll talk about the new top 25, and we'll kind of take the barometer, take a pulse, as it were, of the first month, what we picked up. You're listening to Hoopsville. Oh, before we go, I should read all interviews on Hoopsville Hotline, courtesy of our partners at Blue Frame Technology and their industry-leading production truck software. Is your college ready to showcase its teams through a reliable and innovative video streaming service that won't break your budget? Blue Frame's advanced digital broadcast tools will help take your broadcast to the next level. Learn more today by visiting www.blueframetech.com. That's blueframetech.com. We will be back with Bob. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC studios. More Hoopsville after this.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, and I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, you primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
Cheer for the stumbles. The he shoulda had that's. And the tears that linger. For in those moments, greatness lies. There, you will find the provoked, the determined, the unified. It's in those moments that champions are born.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
Being a part of the different activities and organizations that I've been a part of, I'm actually able to see myself where I'm like, hey, I actually can make a change. I'm one person that can make a difference.
Division III has helped me to develop teamwork skills, critical thinking skills, time management skills.
It's not just about basketball, or it's not just about school, it's about developing yourself as a person altogether.
It's on us. It's on all of us. And it's time to act now.
It's on us to start the change. It's on us to be the change. It's on us. It's on Division III. It's on all of us to stop sexual assault.
I coined my definition of success in 1934. My definition of success is peace of mind attained only through self-satisfaction in knowing you made the effort to do the best of which you're capable. It's like reputation and character. Reputation is what others perceive you to be. Character is what you are.
We are the coaches of women's basketball. We are leaders and teachers, dreamers and winners. We are professionals who conduct ourselves ethically and with integrity. We place the education, safety, and well-being of the athletes we coach above all else and teach them the fundamental values they need to succeed in life. We are coaches united for the good of our game and those who play it. We are the WBCA.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. If you got any questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us hoopsville@d3hoops.com or join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. On Sunday shows, we always take the chance to do what we call the top 25 double take. We're still going to call that the segment, but obviously the new top 25s are out. By the way, before I get too deep in the weeds here, I'd called something up. Got a nice message. Yes. Someone pointing out that Damon's last name is Jablonski, the J as in Joe. Yeah, I was overthinking it, but thank you, Ann. Yeah, sometimes today's been one of those days. I had to focus on 6 teams worth of names for this past weekend. Yet I think today my brain decided we're done. We've been talking about names and figuring out pronunciations. In one case, I actually had to make sure I tried not to say she or he or she or her, and didn't do it so successfully. I think my brain decided just to shut everything off. But thank you, Ann. Well, I know Damien well. For whatever reason, I couldn't say his last name tonight. So we usually talk top 25, kind of forecasting what we might see. The new polls are out. The women's side, the new number 1 is Tufts. Took 14 of the first place votes that had gone to Amherst. They've been distributed, but Amherst lost all of theirs. Scranton took 6 of them in the second hole. Bowdoin up to 3rd. Hope's in 4th with 4 first-place votes. Amherst fell to 5th, and the Maryland Baylor sitting at 6 with 1 first-place vote. On the men's side, nothing really changed. Swarthmore's at 21. Amory's at 4. I think Swarthmore may have strangleholded the number a little bit stronger. I could be wrong. That said, who's not voting for Swarthmore must have them low because they've only got about a 29-point lead on Emory, which seemed a little bit surprising. So this time around, Bob's going to join us. But as we bring Bob in, Bob, we're going to not really go into our dubious and deep dive and all that because we kind of waste all our ammunition for next Sunday. But we are a month into the season, so I wanted to take a little chance to talk about what we've seen in the first month. But first off, your initial reactions to what is the newest top 25.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think out of 25 teams that are in that poll, I may have voted for 24 of them, somewhere right in that range. So I'm tracking very closely with the poll. I wasn't surprised by any movement in there. I think many of the conferences that I've been looking at are kind of lined up in the way that I would line them up. And so I thought it was a really good effort by the voters, and things are becoming, it's a tough year to say they're becoming clear, but I think I'm starting to get a little better feel for who the top teams are.
There are 5 teams in that poll I'm not voting for. I've not laid one vote on for Nichols. They're still in the poll at 17. I'm not voting for Stevens Point. We can get into this if we need to. I'm sorry, 4, because I kept Guilford in. I'm not voting for Augustana, and I'm not voting for Amherst. So those were my 4 that are sitting there in the top 25 that I'm not taking a shot at. All right, so we'll I think from some of our answers here, we'll dive into this. If you have got more questions about the top 25 from Bob and my point of view, we'll try and get them into the next 20 minutes or so that we're going to be on with this. We did start the show late, which means for the podcasters, this is going to be a less than 2-hour show. But for you listeners at home, we should be around 2 hours. Let's talk about our favorite topic, Bob, because I swear, Bob, this has become an overused word, and we thought we were really creative when we came up with it. We thought we were really unique about Division III, and that's parity. We clearly have seen men's basketball especially get deeper and deeper and deeper, and it feels to me like this first month revealed that just when we didn't think it could get deeper, it gets deeper. Your thoughts on parity? I mean, where's your separation between who's really good, and who's not even on your radar?
Yeah, I don't know if I'll use those terms. I'll just say that I'm very sold on Swarthmore and Emory being the top two teams at this point.
Yeah.
Now, a couple things. I think that said, it's right about after that line is where I think there's a whole group of teams, maybe the next 15, that are fairly interchangeable. And then I don't even think that the gap between that Swarthmore-Emory grouping, I don't think the gap between them and that next tier that I'm talking about is very big. Then after that second tier of 15 or so, everything after that, I think extends down to like 35 teams. And from the games that I've watched, there's just a whole bunch of very even teams from the middle of the poll down. But I do think Swarthmore and Emory very clearly are 1 and 2 at this point.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I feel comfortable with my Swarthmore-Emory selections too at 1 and 2. And after that, it can feel like a pick. I mean, and as a result of that, it can also feel like I'm making a mistake. Like, there's no way this team is here. Well, who else am I going to put there where it isn't going to have the same reaction? I think I'm deeper than 35. I think I could go 40 with teams I could make an argument deserve to be in the top 25. And maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like it's a 35 to 40 range. And then, Coach Damian made the point that anybody can win. A Stephen F. Austin can beat a Duke. Well, we've already seen that this year, where some absolute whack teams that you would never expect to get a win are going to get a win over somebody in the top 30, top 40 teams. So parity has become a challenge, and it's good for Division III basketball. It just means the tournament's going to be wide open. Maybe you answer this, where's it getting fuzzy for you?
I think it gets fuzzy somewhere around number like 15 or so. I'm looking at the current poll, and 15 is La Crosse, Whitworth, Nichols. I also did not vote for Nichols. You got Stevens Point, Colby, Guilford, Springfield, Carthage, Augustana, Benedictine, Amherst. To me, 15 is about the point where, again, number 15 and my number 35, I don't know quite what the difference is between those teams.
Yeah.
I watched Johns Hopkins beat Muhlenberg the other day. Could Muhlenberg beat La Crosse? Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm not saying they would definitely, but that would be a great game.
So that's interesting, because I watched Muhlenberg. I didn't see him play Hopkins. I was busy, but I saw him play Washington College, and I didn't come away with that point of view. But it also shows, Bob, how games and matchups can change the way a team will look, and why it becomes even more of a head-scratching moment, because you think you get a read on a team, and then they go play a game, and you change everything you thought about as a program.
Well, great example this weekend, Friday night, Wisconsin Oshkosh, the defending champs, they lose to Alma.
Yeah.
I mean, Alma does not have a good track record so far this year besides that game. Then the next night, Oshkosh goes to Grand Rapids and beats Calvin by like 40.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you were at the Calvin game, you're like, well, no one's going to beat those guys. But if you were at the game the night before against Alma, you're like, these guys are overrated. So
right.
It depends what game you see, what the matchups are, how the teams play. These are college guys. They don't play the same game in and game out, and that's why it's fun.
You sent me a question I thought was really interesting. You've hinted at it already. You watched the Hopkins-Muhlenberg game. What is your take on the Centennial Conference? The reason I find it interesting is on the football side of things this year, Muhlenberg's in the Final Four this year, a year after Hopkins was in the Final Four and nearly knocked off Mount Union to get to a title game. Somehow the Centennial Conference has just emerged in more ways than I think people appreciate. And I'm even in the Mid-Atlantic sometimes trying to tamper myself down, going, come on, Dave, it's a Centennial, ease off. But what's your take from someone who isn't as close to it as I am?
I think it's a great league. And over the years, we haven't spent a ton of time talking about the Centennial Conference. Of course, the league always has a great team at the top. It's been Franklin and Marshall more times than not. And the thing about it this year is that at the top, it's very deep. I'm not going to say it's deep all the way one to the bottom.
No.
But if you look at Swarthmore and Hopkins and Muhlenberg And you know, there's a team that's actually way under the radar that's pretty good. That's Gettysburg.
Yeah.
Gettysburg's a pretty good team. And Haverford, I think, you know,
Haverford.
Haverford, sorry.
That's okay. You get me with the ones out there. I get it.
That's the first time I've ever mentioned them on Hoopsville.
You're right. So I give you slack.
Haverford.
There you go.
6-1. So what I like about the Centennial is that they are going to give Swarthmore a test. And Swarthmore is going to have to go on the road to those teams. And what I was worried about coming into the season was that, okay, Swarthmore is going to be the preseason number 1, and we're never going to know how good they are.
Yeah.
But I love the fact the Centennial is so strong at the top, and we're going to get some great matchups there.
Well, I agree. Now, I'm not totally into the Muhlenberg bus yet. I'm watching. I'm impressed with the loss, to be honest with you. I'm more impressed with the loss than I am with the wins. Haverford, I'd heard whispers of. Some whispers about what Coach Dunn had done at Gettysburg. I wasn't buying in yet, but I watched them against Hopkins and was really impressed that they hung with Hopkins. You still have Ursinus in there. May not have the best record, but we've already seen them give a couple of these top teams a game. We saw Washington College give Muhlenberg a game. No, we're not going to. By the time we get to the bottom, probably not worth writing home about. But I agree with you. I was talking to another coach in the Centennial. The men's battle this year may be better than we realized it would be, considering how good Swarthmore is. They still may come out of this unblemished. I doubt it. I think Hopkins at least trips them up. But yeah, better test. I agree with you. I'm going to flip this, go to your central region, the one you watch nonstop. You just were watching tonight, your alma mater take on Stevens Point in women's basketball. Listen, I see a lot of top 25 teams coming out of the Central. I know you're one of those guys that thinks it's Centennial first and everybody else second, and that's not a knock. I just mean that's the vantage point you're coming from. I try and be a little bit more national focused and not buy into the Central that much. Am I wrong? Am I missing something maybe in the Central that's better than, like, again, I'm not voting for 4 teams out of the WIAC or the CCIW.
Well, I think you got to look at it this way. It's not that the Central has teams at the top that are any better than the rest of the top. It's that there's like 13 teams that could play with anyone in the poll, you know? And so, like, if you look at, I'm not saying that there should be 6 CCIW teams ranked, but there's 6 that got votes. Mm-hmm. And the one that's not in is the preseason favorite, North Central. They're one of 6 getting votes, and they're not ranked. There's 6 teams that could play with anyone in the poll. Then you look at the WIAC, there's 5 teams getting votes.
Yeah.
Very legit, because you have Oshkosh, they're not even in, right? They're not ranked.
No.
You've Stevens Point, Platteville, La Crosse. You've got Eau Claire that is very, probably a little bit under the radar. They're not quite in the poll yet. And then in addition to those, oh, by the way, WashU is in the region. And oh, by the way, Benedictine's in the region. So that's 13 teams in the Central. And so it's not that the top 2 or like 1 or 2 or 3 teams in the Central are dominant, but there's a whole bunch of power that's in that one region this year.
Well, and if you just go a step outside that region, you got St. John's and St. Thomas, and you've got the Ohio schools. But, you know, we could keep going. But you're right. I mean, I will not deny that there's a lot of really good teams in that Central. I just feel like sometimes I get caught going, are they all good and nobody else is? But then that's that top 25 discussion. You know, where do you start spreading the wealth to some degree? I'm trying to double check. Well, no, because Loris is technically in the West, along with the rest of that conference. I was trying to see if there was another one that you know not mentioned, but no, I think you got them all.
Looking at this, I can't quite remember a year where, at this point, there were this many like votable teams. Again, there's usually a bunch, but not like 13 teams you could make some sort of case for.
Sure.
And that's going to sort itself out a lot, because CCIW teams are starting to play CCIW teams, and WIAC are starting to play WIAC. WashU's going to start getting into the UAA games a little bit. So I think at this point, it's just there's so many, and it's hard to process how that's going to play out in regional rankings. When you think of all of these teams being in one region for regional rankings, that will be very interesting to watch the process play out.
Yeah, I agree with you. And as they say, it all weeds itself out in the end. But unfortunately, at the same time, these conferences also beat the heck out of each other, and sometimes it takes to their detriment is what I'm trying to get at. Biggest surprises of this first month? Any team that? Well, let's just start with the surprises.
Yeah, I think on the bad surprise end of things, I would say number one would be North Central. You know, they were the preseason number 3.
Sure.
And they just haven't played very well. You know, they came out of the gates. They lost a home game to Oshkosh.
Okay.
And then you're like, okay, but they didn't play that well in that game at all. And then they lose a home game to Benedictine. Okay, we've got Benedictine in the poll now. So that's not terrible. But again, it's a home game, right? And so if you're the team to win the CCIW, you're the number 3 preseason team. You got to win that game. And then another tough one. They go to Carthage, and I think Carthage is a really good team. They go to Carthage. They were down 20 points in the first half. They came back and made it a really good game. But I would say North Central, we talked about Oshkosh a lot. You know, Oshkosh losing to Alma was the one that really put it over the edge, right? So losing to Elmhurst, okay, surprised us all. Losing to Carthage, that surprises. The Alma game is a head scratcher. That's a head scratcher. On the good side, to me, Colby, what a story that is. I mean, Colby coming out of the NESCAC right now, and they've cracked the poll. And we didn't see that coming, I don't think. I think Babson had a pretty pedestrian season last year. And obviously it's a really good program. But I didn't quite expect them to be where they are now. So those are really Colby and Babson, the two on the good surprise side of things.
Yeah, Colby's the one. I mean, to be honest with you, I was kind of pumping the brakes. I had a couple of people go, hey, Colby's great, including Ryan. I'm like, okay. You know, the shoe will fall. I'm sure of it. And then I got the information this week. And again, I'm coming out of soccer. So the information was key for me that we get from Pat Coleman every week for me to dive in and make sure I'm not missing something. And I remember looking at Colby and I went, okay, I need to do some work. I need to go double check this. I agree with you about North Central. I'm more surprised about Oshkosh. I didn't have them number 1 in my preseason poll, but I had them top 5, considered top 10. The Alma game was just, it's the final straw for me. I'm like, listen, I'll give you some leash, but now what's going on? I don't care how much they came back to beat Calvin. You can't be losing to Alma on top of that. I'm shocked. Now, I saw Ryan share something with us on our chat sessions. I don't know, and he'll probably say it out loud too, and I hope I'm not hosing him here, but he pointed out that Favorite's probably trying to do too much. And maybe this team needs to figure out how to play as a unit when they've been so used to Ben Boots and others running the show. He may have a point there. I'm going to wait and see. I still think Oshkosh is going to be a dangerous team come February and March, but they're putting themselves in a tough spot to start off with. The surprise for me that I wasn't ready for, I think, to some extent you already talked about it, is the depth of the WIAC and the depth of the CCIW. I knew we would have a quote unquote changing of the guard, but I didn't think we would have Platteville and Eau Claire and La Crosse, maybe Stevens Point. I'm not buying into Stevens Point right now. But others playing so well right now, when we've had so many years of the WIAC has been a couple teams at the top and then everybody else. And in the CCIW, it's been a couple teams at the top and then everybody else. But you got Carthage and Elmhurst. We haven't even mentioned Illinois Wesleyan, who seems to be doing well with the win over Carthage, despite some stumbles as well. I'm surprised by the depth of those conferences more than anything.
It's been impressive, and the thing that's funny about the CCIW, I think, is if anyone follows the chat board, and when the top 25 came out in the preseason, I was very critical of the preseason voters that voted for Wheaton, and I still I'm still sticking with what I said, which was I feel those voters just plucked a team off of last year's top 25, and they slid them in, and they didn't really pay attention to who Wheaton lost, which was a lot, obviously, including the player of the year, right? Now, what's funny is that this week I voted for Wheaton.
Well, you're wearing a Chicago White Sox thing, so I understand you make bad decisions.
Yes, I'm representing the South Side tonight, obviously.
This North Sider should never let you on the show.
It's not lost on me, the irony of me getting all over some people for giving Wheaton preseason votes. And here in week 3, but I tell you what, Wheaton's going to be a team that, like, they're going to look awesome like they did at Illinois Wesleyan Wednesday. And then they're going to have a game where you're like, I don't know about, they lost to Lake Forest, and Lake Forest is a good team. They lost to Lake Forest, they lost to Ripon. But what I saw of Wheaton collectively against Chicago and then Illinois Wesleyan, they are a very difficult team to match up with, and they have players that have become stars, just guys that were kind of in the shadow of Aston Francis and Luke Peters. So I didn't expect that in the CCIW. Elmhurst, what you mentioned with the WIAC, I also didn't expect that we would be talking about Eau Claire, La Crosse quite to this extent. Platteville, exactly right. And so Platteville is the team that was on my radar coming in. They were like my team number 26 in the preseason, so that hasn't surprised me. But the depth of the WIAC and CCIW is one of the themes for me for sure.
By the way, back to our Centennial Conference, good friend of the show, Luke Stilson reminds all of us, Hopkins Swarthmore tomorrow night at Swarthmore. That should be a must-see game for everybody. One, it's at Swarthmore, but two, I've seen Hopkins in place, and I have not. There's no truth to the rumors yet that I've been offered to go to that game for money, that Hopkins wants me there because they've got a sophomore stud who apparently when I'm in the building, it plays lights out. 2 career nights, the 2 nights I've been there. There's no truth to rumors that they've reached out yet. Hint, hint, Hopkins, I'm for sale. But that should be a great game. And for if you want to understand how good top 25 voters think teams are, that game is worth tuning into. I would love to go to it. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Ryan is going to it, and he's going to take his father to his first D3 game. It's going to be that one. I would love to go to it, but there's no way I can drag. Well, no, I can't take my son on a school night, an hour and a half, 2 hours from the house. Before I let you go, key conference races you're keyed into. Now that we kind of look at month 2, we get a taste of the conferences at this time of year before we get a break. Anything you're keying in on?
Yeah, a conference race-wise, I'd say a whole bunch of them. UAA, in no particular, UAA. Will WashU challenge Emory? I think yes. I think that will be neck and neck the entire season. You have a great 2 teams right there. We've talked about the WIAC. We've talked about the CCIW. We've talked about the Centennial. Those are all ones that I'm looking at. How about the NESCAC? How about all of a sudden having to talk about Hamilton and Amherst and Colby and Middlebury? We haven't even talked about Williams much. So I'm very interested in watching the NESCAC. I'm interested in the ODAC. Virginia Wesleyan's looked very good to me at times. You've got Randolph-Macon that looks outstanding. What about Guilford? Short list. Those are the conference races that I'm just really keyed in on so far.
I agree. I find it. I find a lot of those races fascinating. I always find conference racing this time of year fascinating too, because we get the sense of, they're out to a 6-0 start. Oh, never mind. Greg Sager I finally caught up to the top 25 board on the men's side today, realizing there were like 10 pages I had missed of posts. And Greg Sager made the joke about how, NYU had for so many years had this weak schedule to begin with. And I'm sitting there struggling not to vote for NYU despite their record and everybody else voting for them. I will say nowadays I'm far more confident to stand on that hill. I'm not voting for Stevens Point, for example. I'm willing to tell you I haven't done it, but NYU was like 10-0 one year. Everybody had them, I think, in the top 10. I wasn't voting for them. I felt like I was being an idiot, and they absolutely unraveled in the conference schedule. Made me feel better, but that's what I key on for these conference races is the teams that really know you will expose you. How good are you when that happens? That's what I look forward to.
For sure. And, a good example would be the game this coming weekend, Illinois Wesleyan and Augustana. Those teams know each other. Conference season is different. The way games play out is different when teams know each other to that degree. And kind of when programs know each other and styles and all that kind of thing. That's why conference season, I think, is really the best part of this. And there's some really good races this year. This is really shaped up to be one of the best seasons that I can remember, just because there's so many teams that are good and so much parity, and it's really been a blast so far to watch these games.
Yeah, and we get to crown a champion in Atlanta, which will make it even more fun. By the way, our friend Brennan wanted to ask both of us if we thought what the chances were Johns Hopkins knocks off top-ranked Swarthmore. I think they've got a chance. I don't think it happens. It's at Swarthmore. That's a tough place to play. If the game was at Hopkins, I'd put 60-40 on Hopkins, but right now I think it's Swarthmore, probably 80-20.
Shoots it from the perimeter. They're very reliant, I think, on shooting the ball from the perimeter.
Yes, they are.
They have a lot of kind of interchangeable, like 6'3" to 6'5" parts. They're
built like Swarthmore. That's what's scary about them.
Yeah, they've got that good lefty shooter that's a really good player. And I like Hopkins, but I'd have to think that Swarthmore is a 7 or 8 point favorite at home in that game. I think that they'll win it fairly convincingly.
Yeah, I'm in the same realm. It could be tighter than that, but that's a safe number. Literally watching Hopkins this year in person, I thought I was looking at another version of Swarthmore. And maybe I shouldn't be surprised. Both coaches kind of have that kind of D1 mentality in the same. And I mean in the structure of a team. But yeah, should be a great game. I'm looking forward to it, certainly, tomorrow. Anything else, sir, before we let you go?
No, I would just say, check the d3hoops.com scoreboard every day and you just go to top 25 or go to all scores. And that's kind of where you find your games you're going to pay attention to, whether you have 10 minutes or an hour. Whatever it is, just every day say, I got to make sure later to check that one out for a little bit. It's a great resource, and there's all kind of great games that are around the country to watch.
And I don't know if you run into this, but I will make my plea again to coaches. Please don't hide your darn archives so that those of us can't see games. One, I'm not going to go into the stupidity of it, in my opinion. But more importantly, I don't want to hear a coach complain that they aren't getting any top 25 love, and I find out their archives are hidden, just for the record.
Worst is, I don't know how many teams are left, but the worst is when you go and you're excited about a game and they want you to pay $5.99 to watch the game. I don't know how many of those there are left, but please, I think, isn't Guilford one of them maybe?
I don't think Guilford is, but there's another school nearby to them. I was just talking to their SID about it, if he's watching.
I want to say Guilford is if you pay, you can watch high def.
Oh, yeah. That may have gone away, though.
If you don't pay, you watch what looks like Atari. It's not a good high-def picture. So, people, let's give us the good picture. D3 Hoops Nation wants to watch your games. Make it free. Get some alums to chip in some dollars to pay for it.
There's your hook.
It'll work out, I promise.
Yeah, alums or fundraise or get sponsorships and advertises. Listen, I can name you a couple schools, Messiah, Franklin, Marshall. Some others who have made that work. We're trying to make that work on this show. Don't hide and by the way, if you're hiding it because you don't want your other teams to scout you, then you don't know how Huddle and all those other programs work either. The
other thing, Dave, we've got to, at some point, we've got to get the camera guys, the camera, you got one job. You're over here, the ball, you're following the ball. That you have one job. I watch too many games where there's a rebound, and we got a good play going on, and my guy, he's locked in over here. He's eating chips. He's
on his phone.
He's studying over here. It's his job. He's never been on d3hoops.com. And then he's like, and then there's you don't know what happened. So we need camera guys to get focused. We need everyone right now to get locked in because we're in December, folks. Let's just get locked in.
I agree with you, sir. Yeah, I need you more on the show. Oh, wait, I have you on the show every Sunday. Hey, really appreciate the time. I'll see you next Sunday. Any final words, or was that your final word?
No, my final word, you look really good in green, Dave. So I like that look on you, and let's wear it some more, Dave.
Just for the record, that says WBCA. That does not say IWU. I just want to make sure you read that.
You look great in green, Dave. We appreciate it.
You do not look good in black and white. I cannot say the same.
Thank you.
Buddy, take care of yourself. Thanks for coming on. Bob Quillman joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville Hotline Skype edition. Appreciate him taking the time on a Monday night, especially, even if he was wearing a horrible socks shirt or jacket. Again, I am not kidding you. That Hopkins Swarthmore game is worth tuning into. Please make a point of doing that if you are a fan of Division III basketball. There are great games everywhere, folks. We turn into the Central Region ones. We tune into, the NESCAC ones. We all do that. The Centennial Conference is one I don't think people have given enough credit to. And I'm not going to fault you for that. Even I've pumped my own brakes. But having conversations with a few people this year, and by watching what I'm seeing building, Franklin and Marshall is probably not part of the conversation this year. It's unfortunate. They're off to a pretty rough start. But man, that top's going to be fun. And the fight for the top 5 spots. Hey, by the way, you should be 6 just for the conference race. For the record, outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. All right, folks, that's going to wrap up our show. I'm making sure none of you sent in any last-minute questions that I should be paying attention to, so bear with me as I call some things up here. Appreciate you all hanging with us with some weird tech gremlins today. Oh, that's what it was. Thanks, Luke. I had totally forgotten. The soccer totally threw me off. I appreciate the opportunity. I call 4 championships in a year in Division III, national championships. To be honest with you, I'd love to call more. But I call men's and women's soccer, and I have now for 4 years. I call men's basketball, as you well know. I don't remember how many years I've called that. And I've called it in a variety of different ways, too. And I've called women's lacrosse for the last 5 years, hopefully to be 5 out of the next 6, since it's in Baltimore this year, this season, I should say. Really enjoy it. I'd love to call more, but the soccer one is a blast. So if it takes me a little out of sorts in basketball, I hope you can understand that. Soccer was, of course, the sport I played in college. Believe it or not, looking at some of this, I did play college soccer, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it helped kind of open up the door for what we do now. So I hope you understand that I do that, and understand that it can take me out of sorts to some degree, but nonetheless. New top 25, as we said, are out. A quick highlights again. Tufts is the new number 1 on the women's side. Some new teams we didn't mention are in Whitewater and Gustavus Adolphus in. Wheaton and Claremont Mudscripts fell out of the women's poll. In the men's poll, Swarthmore still on top, along with Emory. There is like a 54-point difference between Emory and Wittenberg in the 3rd spot. So clearly those 2 teams are the top. We mentioned the new ones: Babson, Stevens Point, Colby, Springfield, and Benedictine, with Oshkosh, Christopher Newport, North Central, and WPI falling out. So I feel like there's one missing, because we had 5 newbies, and that's 4 out. So there's one missing, and I'm not sure off the top of my head who that might be. But nonetheless, I want to thank everybody who came on the show tonight. We had a solid show. I want to thank everybody who took time on a Monday night to join us. A little bit different. I want to thank Sherry Harrer at Baldwin Wallace. I want to thank Kaya Huff at Edgewood Women's Basketball, Damian Jablowski at Whitworth Men's Basketball, and of course, Bob Quillman. We'll be on the air Thursday night, 7 o'clock Eastern Time, with our first Thursday show in a couple of weeks. Then we'll be on next Sunday, but that's our last Sunday show for the holidays. We'll be then on next Thursday. So that's 3 shows coming up. We will be getting our advertising packages out, as we mentioned. If you're interested in advertising or sponsoring on this show, please let us know. We'll send you one. We're going to throw in these next 3 shows for free, or any of the shows, depending on when you sign up, if you buy a package certain packages. I do want to apologize. Didn't get the rules podcast out the door like I hoped. Soccer, I just needed to focus on that. I had some other issues going on. I have a lot of doctor's appointments right now going on because of the back surgery and such. And so we just didn't have enough time. We will figure that one out and get it put together. I know it's really dated at this point, but I do want to get that out for all of you. So we will work on that. And with that, we will wrap up the show. I do want to thank the SIDs, especially at all the institutions we reached out to today. Of course, that includes Steve Flagel at Whitworth. I want to thank, let's see, I don't want to forget names, so I apologize. Louis at Baldwin Wallace, along with Jeff as well, at very helpful, despite some glitches there as well. Also want to thank Anna, I think it was it not, at Edgewood? Yes, Anna Blake at Edgewood for her help. With that, we'll sign off. We'll see you on Thursday night, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. I want to thank our Blue Frame Technology, WBCA, NABC, and D3 Hoops partners as well for their help with this show. I want to thank you for tuning in. If you've got questions for us, tweet us at D3 Hoopsville, hashtag Hoopsville, and email us, hoopsville@d3hoops.com anytime you want. Of course, hope you enjoyed this on the Team One Sports broadcasting apps on whether it's Apple TV, Roku, Android TV, or Amazon Fire. And we will continue to find ways to make sure you can enjoy this show, especially if you listen to it on the podcast. And we've got like half a dozen different ways you can listen to the podcast, whether it's SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeartRadio. I think I'm missing, Google Play. There's several others. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We're going to see you on Thursday. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate the kind words. Great show as usual. Appreciate it very much. See you guys. Take care. I'll see you on Thursday. You've been listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC studios. We'll see you Thursday night.